go ahead and get started with our agenda work session, January 26, 2017. We'll be attempting to set the agenda for the February 9th regular council meeting. Janet, if we can have the roll call, please.
Mayor Hendricks.
Here?
Vice Mayor Stoll.
Here.
Councilmember Cagle. Here. Councilmember Hilton. Councilmember Williams.
Here.
City Manager Miller.
Here.
Interim City Attorney Letchford.
Here. Okay, the first item just 1 minute. I've got the right copy of this.
Jan, what's the public hearing, what is that?
$3. First reading.
And we waived it from last week.
That's right, that's on the 6:30 though, we did. Yeah, that's on the 6:30.
First reading.
Yeah, this is, okay.
Okay, yeah, I was,
We voted on first reading last week.
You're right, we did, we
We
did.
voted on,
You were correct.
we voted on Donaldson, and we waived the public hearing to this time.
It's not Donaldson.
Oh.
It's.
sorry to stir up confusion, but yes, I was just wondering if a public hearing was necessary for the abandonment, and apparently it is. So, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was the case. Now, we do have a public hearing during our regular council meeting
That's on
tonight as
Donaldson.
well. That's on Donaldson.
Donaldson.
Right.
That's for $3.
Okay.
Okay. Under old business, potentially next time, would be public hearing on ordinance number 1027, and then also potentially second final reading on that as well. And that would be in regard to the potential of abandoning a portion of right-of-way at the 600 block of Camp Jordan Parkway, which is currently under the jurisdiction of the City of East Ridge. And we have this on tonight's agenda for first reading. I'm sure we will have opportunity to discuss it at that time as well. I think I believe a representative of Exit One LLC is supposed to be here as well at some point. So again, we will talk about that at length during the regular meeting tonight. But again, it potentially would be before us on second and final reading next time. Under new business, the grant consent agenda will be approving the application for and acceptance of the 2017 Community Development Block Grant for slum and blight removal. And then also approving the application for and acceptance of Firehouse Subs fiscal year 2017 grant. Anything in particular that we need to note? I believe these are things that we have done in the past. So if there are no questions, we will move on. Mr. Custer, how are you feeling?
I'm here.
He's been a little under the weather. Good to see you here. Hope you feel better. Item B and C are going to be related. So Mr. Custer will, I'm sure, have information for us on both of these subjects. Discussion of architectural design standards as well as discussion of sign standards.
Yeah, the mayor and council, you will receive tonight a copy of the architect that proposed architectural design along with the sign ordinance. When we, over the last year or so, as we've discussed the design standards, it was really emphasized to keep a document that was obtainable, that achievable, an achievable building, not too excessive. So we were able to sit down and come up with some design standards, city manager and I met a few times going back and forth with it. This will go before planning commission. Both of these documents will go before planning commission, February the 6th at 5:30. We'll be in this room. The planning commission has to approve it, make changes, recommendations, and then it'll come to council for a vote. You can also make changes and recommendations at that time also. But during that February 6th meeting, I plan on going through it in great detail. It'll give you at least a week and a half to go through it and see what you like, what you don't like, see if you have comments. In between then, you can give it myself to the mayor, and Mr. Miller. But like I say, the facade the design standards, that come about when we've had some buildings built here over the last few years. We didn't have any regulation. So if you wanted to build a Butler building in the center of, the city, right on Ringo Road, and it's covered in corrugated metal on all four sides, there was nothing we could do about it. That same business that would have done that has a design option to do brick and rock or EVIS to make it more pleasing, to make it more inviting, to kind of change what we're trying to do with the city. If you look at Speedway, Mapco, Bass Pro, everything that's being developed now, you're starting to see more natural stone and rock. So it's there. It's just we need a mechanism to make sure that that's how buildings are being constructed moving forward. On the sign ordinance, there is everything that you see in yellow are the additions that's been added or changed over the last year. There is also writing highlighted in green, and that pertains to the most recent additions, which pertain to all the LED messaging, how the message readers work, how we're going to measure the foot candles, what distance it's going to be. It also covers off-premise signs, including billboards, what the regulations will be. So if you have if you want to do an LED conversion on a billboard, we created a distance of 2,000 feet between boards. That's a discussion that's come up in the past and said, if we want to build billboards, but we're afraid with the number of billboards that we had, if everyone went to LED, then you wouldn't need any street lighting. So if you increase that distance to 2,000 feet within the right of way, in between those signs, that would help. So that's just some of the changes that we were able to do. A lot of the other things that we changed a little bit was the pole signs. Everybody's aware of our sign proliferation that we have here, and it's something that's brought up on a regular basis. What can we do to attract businesses and also help with the sign issue? So I think this was part of the facade grant, which we're going to be working on over the next few weeks to move around some items and hopefully be able to provide some funding to businesses to encourage installation of new signage. So there'll be a lot of discussion, especially at that planning commission meeting, and I would love if everybody could attend to go through it piece by piece, because there is a lot of information.
The 2,000 foot that you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to use the side sign down here as an example. So you come up here and the next guy is it's up around the Food City, okay? And that's 3,000 square foot, 3,000 foot. He's within distance. Can a guy come from the side up 2,000, or is he going to go for measure his back 2,000?
When they submit that plan, which will also have to go through use on, if we do the upgrades, it'll come through us. If they do a new sign, like if they take the pole down and everything else, that'll be a use on review. But what they're going to have to do is when they come in and make application, they're going to have to lay out the signs within 2,000 feet of each direction. So if somebody, say Jay wasn't on the state line, Mr. Design, we would measure 2,000 feet each direction to make sure that it's consistent throughout.
First sign comes in is 3,500 foot from Jay's sign. And there's no sign to be put between that sign and Jay's sign.
That's correct. know we'll have a lot of discussions.
Thank you, sir. The next item is discussion of soliciting requests for proposal for streetscape of Ringgold Road from Tombrus Avenue west to Belvoir and Tombrus Avenue east to Moore Road.
Yes, what I'm asking the council is, for the council's, oh, you want to do this one?
There's actually a correction.
I'm sorry, go.
In the, on that, because those parameters that you just read off are actually covered by grant. So it technically would go from John Ross Road west to the tunnel or at the South Seminole, and then from Moore Road all the way to the Georgia state line, is what it's supposed to have for it.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm looking for here. This is Ringgold Road. This is the resurfacing.
Right, oh, you're doing resurfacing, not
No,
multimodal?
I'm doing multimodal from, Thomas to Belvoir and Thomas to Moore. Those two are under grades.
Yes,
I want to do the west
right,
part,
exactly, so.
and I want to do the east part.
Right, so you would go from wherever the multimodal stops westward, which would be John Ross or Belvoir,
Yeah,
to the South Seminole.
right.
And then you would go eastward from Moore Road.
Yeah, that's what I said here. That will provide multimodal pass, okay.
It doesn't say that on the agenda, it's different in
There's
the,
a
on
different- yeah,
the
there's
agenda
different wording,
page than
sorry.
your thing,
Right,
yeah.
there's different wording.
Discussion of,
That's what
uh,
your letter's correct, yes, sir.
all right, I guess I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
read,
Sorry.
that's what happens when I'm working on something and somebody puts something in front of me and I don't read it well enough. Okay. This actually is what Amanda mentioned. We're going to have sidewalks done under the TAP program and the multimodal program from Tombrus to Belvoir, possibly John Ross, and then Tombrus to Moore, and if we can stretch the dollars, we can go to McBrien Road.
Right.
So that'll take care of the middle section, sidewalks on both sides of the road. What I'm looking for here is to bring an architect, bring an engineer on board to take care of the sidewalks from Belvoir or John Ross west to South Seminole. Those areas that are in that, most of all those areas are in the
Porter Region.
Porter Regions District. I'd like to do that first, and what I propose the schedule, this is just a brief summary schedule. As everybody aware, we got till 2022 to get these projects completed and bonded out, and then we'd be reimbursed over the next 20 years till 2042 on the debt service. If we don't take advantage of that, then we've lost that opportunity to do it. So what I'm looking at is 2017-18 for the next year, we would work on engineering design for Ringgold Road west here to the tunnels. And then the construction the following year. And in 19 and 20, we do the engineering design for Ringgold Road east I-75. And then the construction the following year, so 2021. So we'll make it 2022. At the section from west is going to take some real engineering skills because we've got some drainage ditches on the north side and probably have to be drainage structures put in before we put sidewalks on there, hillsides and so forth. But now's our time to do a streetscape. We can do sidewalks, we can look at street lighting, possibly even hopefully work with EPB in regard to raising the, possibly putting in larger, higher power poles, distance them further apart, and put the power lines higher in the air so people can't really see it. And we concentrate more on just noticing the streetlights. I think all those amenities we can get done. And I guess now's the time to start bringing an engineer on board. It'll take about 2 months or so to get an engineer on board, and then probably a good 6-8 months or so to get all the design documents taken care of.
And we could possibly do all the design for both sides of it at the same time, and then do the construction laid out like he was referring to.
I know one of the things too that EPB has done, I think Gun Barrel Road is probably an example of it, is bundling the wires so that you don't have a line here, 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 and here. You've got them all, essentially it looks like one rope that's bundled together. And so it definitely declutters your perspective. So I think that would be something that we might want to look at as well.
Absolutely. Anything to minimize and make the streetscape, provide a streetscape amenity. If I believe very strongly, if we end up doing that in the west side first, possibly we can get some of the businesses out there to get involved with building new, tearing down, building new, and availing themselves of the border region technology we can provide to them,
And the
like in the sod grant, pretty much like we did with Paul John Silvers. That's why we're supposed to do that portion first. A lot of times it's easy for a business to say, well, the city's not going to do anything, why should I do anything? We're going to go through and do some improvements, Ringo Road out west, make it look nicer, and we can work with them to make their businesses look nicer. That's what I'm going to be asking for on February.
Possibilities of underground utilities for
We can check on that, but haven't done, well,
That was the issue with the multimodal and the TAP grant. We did ask them about that, and it was too cost prohibitive.
the one thing I will say, having been a manager of a city that had its own power company, it's not at least minimum 3 times the cost of overhead. It's expensive. So, I think if we drill them higher, the poles higher, distance further, and then build a lower street light, here it is, I think you won't be able to see the lines. We will concentrate on seeing the lines. You're absolutely right. I mean, underground is the ultimate, but I don't know, cost-wise.
I think one of the issues too that we run into with the current sidewalks that we have, a lot of them have utility poles right smack in the middle of the sidewalk. And so you can't continue to ride a bike or do whatever on that sidewalk.
Now, the
Because there's
utilities
one-
are going to move, when we do these projects, they are going to move their, like, their junction boxes and talk about the poles too, about moving those. And as you were talking, they were discussing the larger ones, so we can take care of that very easily.
Well, we talked about doing the wider sidewalks. I know we're doing that on some.
Matter of fact, one side we're doing, what,
The,
6 to 10?
the south side, which is the side of the road, will be 10 foot, which is the multimodal path, and then the north side, I believe, is 6 foot, just general walking.
Where we have a challenge is going further west, where a lot of those businesses have predominant parking in front, right up to the curb. And when you start looking at putting a 4 or 6 foot sidewalk there, you could be a hurt for business. So that's going to be a challenge for us to get done.
And making the new drives for the businesses to enter and exit, and helping them to kind of fix where their parking is. And we've helped a few of the businesses in some of these grants help, figure out, show them design plans of how they could reconfigure their parking, so it's not detrimental to them.
That'd be the same thing for our shopping center,
Now, Kingwood is,
Yes,
especially in front of Lincoln.
yes.
now they do have a sidewalk.
They want to figure themselves out.
Well, now they do
No, we
have
don't
sidewalk
we
already.
don't want to hurt businesses. Jeff, you're right. I want that sales, we want that sales tax.
They already have sidewalks over there, Councilman Cable,
Yeah,
but we just need to
they're
widen
about
them.
10 foot.
You know,
No, not on that side.
we may have to forego the 10 foot up there. I mean, it's just, we got to be practical about the whole thing. We can't force those type of requirements and retrofit because somebody almost gets hurt when you do that.
I think I've heard that Osborne was thinking about redesigning all those buildings and building new at one time. I think that was brought up. You might check with somebody before we kind of get into that, see what they're maybe planning on doing.
Okay. I think a lot of that, when we start, getting plans out and going through this process and letting everybody know that we're going to be doing this, we'll be working more with with some of them about, tearing down and building new, or building on vacant lots, or taking advantage of. Now's the time to get it done before 2022, is to look at some of these financial assistance programs. Because after 22, we won't even be able to put in for a reimbursement. So we've got to get it done now.
And to council, if we do it ourselves, we're not under the same length and width path restrictions as we would under a grant, because to be a multimodal, it has to be 10 foot. Sidewalks have to, I think their width has changed to 5 or 6 feet. So if we do it with a grant, we have to stay within their restrictions, but if we do it ourselves, we don't, we have to just stay within our restrictions.
Very good. Thank you.
So we're ready to do our fifth year of the Board of Regents.
Yes.
We're already into our fifth year.
Yes, you are. I'm not sure when in 2022, it's July 1st or the end of the year.
Technically, our district was certified June 3rd of 2022.
Okay.
Sometime in that first week of June.
Okay, so what we need our first one would be June 3rd of 2022.
So we said we were certified 2010,
Well, it was 2012,
2012.
but the way the legislation was amended, that you have a 12-year period that predates certification by 2 years and postdates by 10. So technically, reaches from 2010 to 2022. And I can only hazard a guess as to why they decided to predate certification date by 2 years.
And for 2010 is the pre-date.
It is. We got certification in June of 12, but the way they did it, technically, the Board of Regent District extends back to 2010. Initially, when it was first adopted, the Board of Regents was actually at a 20-year investment period. And when they decided to sunset, they trimmed that down a little bit to 12 and made 2 of those years almost inapplicable. How are you going to go back to 2010 and say, okay, we're going to do some kind of incentive for something that happened in 2010 when it had already been on the tax rolls for 2 years? So anyway, so effectively, we really only had 10 years. By the legislation, we had 12, including 2 years prior to certification.
But if something was constructed and, well, can we go back to 2010 as our base year for
So that's another confusing part of it. 2012, the Department of Revenue was adamant that 2012 had to be the base year. We argued for several different things, and 2012 was the base year.
Okay.
The reason why I'm asking is, we're fixing to pass something tonight with a 25-year paper.
Well,
So
that's,
we're already into this, we don't have 25 years left.
we may only have 24.
Well, the actual, the investment period is 12 years. The payback period is 30. So it extends from 2012, the payback extends from 2012 to 2042.
So we're at 2017 now.
So we're,
5 years into the payback.
right, almost 5 years. In June, it'll be 5 years.
Okay, June. Okay,
We're at 25 years
See where I'm
and
trying
5
to
months
go?
left. Yes, absolutely.
all right.
If we get into these projects later in 2017, it'll be 24 years from now.
Or really after June of this year.
Right. Yes. Then we go to 25 to 24. And then the following year, 23, and following, so,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
watching this whole piece of legislation metamorphosize over the years. It's pretty entertaining.
Well, we got marched out these numbers of years, we're saying we're gonna try to get Board of Regents to pay back. So,
And we are on the clock. We've got a little less than 5.5 years in the investment period.
yeah.
Yeah. And we know what projects we're kind of looking at, you know, Exit One will probably be some money involved in that. You know, our Camp Jordan Parkway, Ringgold Road, if we go through with this, and some of the other hotels I'm working with right now, up and down Ringgold Road. But other than that, if we don't have any others that we're working on to get them in the queue, we'll lose that opportunity to get reimbursed past 2022. So if the other projects that come about, road systems that we need to be built, that areas in the Board of Region District, we need to get it done.
The final thing we have on the work session agenda would be board appointments, beer board, personnel board. Mr. Cagle had mentioned right before we started this meeting that there had been some discussion a year ago, I guess, about doing away with the personnel board. I still would have no problem doing that. It would require some tweaking to make sure the personnel manual.
I would like to hold off on that until we're very close to getting the personnel manual completed. I'd like to bring that, you know, be coming to the council.
Sure.
But the personnel board does provide a appeal process within the grievance procedure. Now, it's not going to be utilized, may not be utilized a lot. I mean, I had one of these in Leavenworth, the 8 years I was there, I think we used it 3 times.
Right.
Yeah,
We've had
it's
it
not-
for
But they were
5
important,
years.
they were important appeals to those employees, other, you know, from the city manager. So I think they serve a purpose, but I'd rather go through the whole grievance process with the council, which understand how they fit in.
And that was all changed back in 2012.
Yes, yes, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. That's fine.
And I've left it, what we've developed so far, I've left that in there. I've just changed some of the, instead of waiting 20 days to file a grievance, we've got 7 days. You know, just some of the time parameters, but the process is basically the same here as what was done in 2012. Personnel.
So potentially personnel board appointees, and then also beer board. My appointee to the beer board resigned in December, so I'll have to find someone new. Also had a member of the planning commission provide notice to me Monday that they will not continue. So I have an appointee there as well.
For myself, we did a list of the appointments that are signed down pretty fast. For all boards and all board. Yeah, it's just the personnel board. All board.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's like every year for the last 7 or 8 years. I never have done it. It would be great to get all of our board appointees together to just familiarize ourselves, because I think some of these names we've never seen, and we've never seen the person. I've never seen them, so I would like to know, who some of these folks are, and I think it would help everyone stay plugged in. All right. If there are no other questions about that, do we have anything else that's not on the agenda? Ms. Helen, anything? Wood. Mr. Cagle.
No, sir, I don't.
Mr. Sewell.
While we're on this board, Need Child Fund, you want to just give some names for that, right?
I've got names from
We
them.
got names from everybody.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Okay. I'm just going to mention very briefly, because we're already bumping into our regular council meeting time. Next time, during the agenda session, I'm going to be providing some material in regard to the creation of a redevelopment authority. And so that's going to be something that it is technically created under the housing authority laws, statutes. And it's essentially a tool that helps with blight. It helps with, potentially with good housing. Again, with redevelopment, we have quite a bit of redevelopment going on. I think it could help us in a number of areas. And it's one of the tools that is not in the toolbox for the city of East Ridge. And, you know, we've made up a lot of ground over the last few years. And we created our own planning commission. We've reinstituted the Industrial Development Board. We've, again, added tools to the toolbox that we did not have previously. And I think this is another one of those things that can really help. And again, I will provide more information at the next agenda work session so that everybody will have an opportunity to look at that and get a better idea of exactly what I'm talking about. All right. That is all that I have. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting and proceed into our regular council meeting.